All right, folks. Let's pardon me. Let's get down to a little how to find an angle on your rolling offset. Okay. So in this exercise here, let me get this page straight a little bit so we can see all the full numbers. Uh, we're gonna have an 8. This is the hypotenuse, or this is the travel of the piece of pipe that we're building. This is a measurement from the center of the 2 inch on the south tank 45 coming from the bottom. So all we're looking at is at the center of this 2 inch, and this one's going to be the 4 hole for the tank that you're rolling into on the north tank, the bottom north tank. Okay, so we have from center to center 8 inches, and we have our set at center to center in this direction at 19.80. This is going to be our welder's triangle. So we're going to do a square plus b square equals c square. So we've kind of gone through that exercise a little bit. That's what we're going to need to do on this one here. Okay. So once we take care of this math here, so a squared plus b squared equals c squared, we know that the a side, and I'm just labeling it a, is it either one could have been a, but I just labeled it a on this side. So 19.80 with an exponent of 2, so that's 19.80 times 19.80, and then 8 times 8, and that's, you add those together, and we're going to get a total on this one. This one's the one that we need to find the square root for. Okay, so it's going to help you to have a calculator that's got the square root button. 456.04 square rooted up is going to give us 21.355. That's what I caught from my center to center on my travel. Okay, so that changes up the set now, but that was some math that we discussed on the last go. And this right here, what we're looking for is we're going to try to find the angle. We do know in our triangle, the only way that this works, this Pythagorean theorem works, is if it's in 90 degrees. So if it's a 90 degrees triangle. So if it's obtuse or oblique or something like that, it won't work. But for our neck of the woods, we work primarily or exclusively with 90-degree angle. So this is going to work for us. All right, so now what we're looking for is the degree of angle in either one of these two areas. We know that a triangle is going to equal 180 degrees total all the way around. Okay, so we already know that in our what we've been doing in class. So if you'll grab your calculator, and there's a couple of little functions here that I want to show you on this calculator. Okay, let me get that out of the glare just a second. In this case, I happen to have the Texas Instruments, but a lot of you guys carry the Casios, or you use the ones on your phone, which is perfectly fine. But let me show you a couple of little functions here that we're looking for. Okay, now we remember from back in our school days, and all this is laid out in your blue book, SOHCAHTOA. I don't know if you remember that. But in order for us to find the sine, we can do opposite over the hypotenuse. So the sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse, and then the cosine is adjacent over the hypotenuse, and then the tangent is the opposite over adjacent. So that's where that little acronym comes from. Sine is equal to the opposite over hypotenuse. The cosine is adjacent over the hypotenuse, and the tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. So let's look at our spot. We're looking for this angle here. Okay, so if this is the angle we're looking for, this is going to be the side opposite, this is the side adjacent, and this of course is your hypotenuse. Okay, so if we're looking for this angle, then this would be adjacent, this would be the opposite side, and then our hypotenuse stays the same because of its angle. Okay, so I hope that works out for you, or I hope you understand that. So now let's look at a couple of functions here in our calculator. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and fire it on. Let me slide it over here where it's not in that glare. or try not to anyway. Sorry about that. How does that right there sound? Okay, so we're going to try to look for the sign of the opposite over the hypotenuse. So if we clear this up, 0, and then we're going to do the 8, which is the opposite end. We're looking for this angle, so there's the opposite end. And then opposite over hypotenuse, so we're going to throw the 8 divided by this 21.355. So let's make that happen. So we're going to go 8 divided by 355, I'm sorry. And that's going to give us 3746, and I've written that down, 3746, okay? So we want to find the arc sign of this, which is in reverse. Then we want to hit, look at this pretty cool little way of doing things here. So we're going to clear this off, and then we're going to hit the second function. There's the sign minus the 1 there, the exponent, which is the opposite end. So we want to type in now the 0.3746, and we want to hit enter, and that's going to give us 21.9. So I'm going to call that 22 degrees. That is 22 degrees. So let's go play with the second one here, cosine. You see how they're all going to come out to the same or very close to the same. Now the cosine, which is the adjacent number divided by the hypotenuse. So now we still want this number here. We still want this degree. So now we're going to take the adjacent side and divide it by the hypotenuse. So now our adjacent side is going to be 19.80 divided by, and then we're going to do 21.355, and we're going to have 9271. I've taken the liberty to write that. And then we want to find the cosine. So we're going to clear that up, hit the second point. That's going to be the cosine minus 1, cosine minus 1. And then we're going to punch in our number, 0.9271, and we hit equal, and now we got 22 degrees. So we're at 20, come on, focus up, bud, 22 degrees. So we're staying pretty simple, real close in the neighborhood here. That's how we're going to check ourselves. And either one of these functions will work. So let's go to that third one. Let's clear this off. So now we're going to go side opposite. Still the angle we're looking for. Side opposite. Divided by adjacent. So we got 8. So we got 8 divided by 19.80, and we got 40/40. Wrote that down right here. So 40/40, that's the tangent. So if we want to go put it backwards in there, so we're going to hit the tangent and then 0.4040, and that's going to give us 21.9. There's the 22 degrees that we're looking for. So we're pretty confident that this bad boy right here is 22 degrees. 22 degrees on that one right there. Sorry about the focus. Let me put my pencil here. There we go. 22 degrees up there. Now, 180 is all the way to the triangle. This point here is 90 degrees. So we need another 90. 22 from 90 is going to give us 68. Or we can do this a different way. We can do 22 plus the 90 and take that away from 180. Is still going to leave you 68. Now that gives us a degree of angle for these points in on our pipe. So I'm going to slide this down right here. And I've taken a little bottle cap here, and I just put 4 bolt holes on there. I want it to simulate the flange. So if I if I'm building this piece of pipe right here on my jacks, and so I've got to consider putting the flange on that plane for it to be square. Does that make sense to you? So I'm going to take that and I'm going to go straight with it. So in order for me to be level with this and level with this side, I've got to rotate it 22 inches. Check out my top 2 bolt holes. If I put something on those two bolt holes and rotate it over, it rotates over 22 degrees. That's how I'm going to keep that straight. Same thing on this side. So you got this top piece laying on your jacks. This is just a reference. This is the part you're building. So if I set my piece alongside that, see how the two holes even with it? Now if I take my flange and see how I can rotate up 22 to get to this plane, all I got to do is take this bad boy with the floating measurement on top, rotate it up 22 degrees. Now it's going to tie up into my tank. So I hope you guys practice with this a little bit, kind of give yourself a visualization of how that's going to sit on your jacks, okay? These two are your reference lines. This is the actual pipe. That's the actual length of pipe. So practice and how you're going to rotate this. I mean, you can actually rotate it up that way 68 degrees. That's just fine too. But if I'm laying it on there and I've got my level sitting across the top here, then I want to rotate down 22 degrees. That's how I'm going to set my flange. Or rotate it up 68 degrees. And that's going to be, see how I got my 4 bolt holes lined up with it. Practice with this a little bit. This will get you ready for that rolling offset on the tanks. All right, guys. See you on the shop.